Absolutely. But it's not just that. There's a lot of reparation, there's a lot of redistribution, there's a lot of land back, and a lot of these people think that is like kind of like an attack or something. It's not. It's just, I don't know. So you keep saying today, grow conscious. Where's your conscious? Where's your empathy? Where's the things that they are telling you all to just forget about it? Also, this energy, I don't know why. It's like both sides, and one speaks of sweet ass words or creates this little bit of a high motivation based on just illusion, more illusion, you know. Bernie Sanders and Vader plans to give 50% of top AI firms stock to public. 50%? The American people deserve a cut of the profits. Absolutely. Yeah, but it's more, and it's more than this. This is not. A lot of you do not settle for less, or, yeah, no. This is, I call it breadcrumb, and this guy is trying to sell that to the community. I don't know why, but he shows one day that he is, you know, in like with us, and then he goes and does this weird, sneaky, snaky, malignant kind of thing. And no offense, but it's like, really? What are you guys suspecting? Like, no offense, but it's like, it's based on the same coin, and a lot of us is like, are you paying attention? This like used to be more cleaner. It's really dirty, and I know I've seen places is worse, but it's like, are we cutting funding for that too? Bernie, right? Or for better education, like colonization, or better healthcare, free healthcare, all of that, like all of that they're trying to rob you, a lot of you, and that's, a lot of us is good to be awake and stuff like that, but understand that the stuff that we've been mentioning for like a couple years now, that we need to talk about it, we need to like, now is like coming to your doors, right? Just right here and here. I don't know why. My thing was just glitching just now, and it stops glitching. But anyways, this pisses me off. This is why I'm near the water, trying to like center myself. There's a lot going on, guys. Like, it's available information for a lot of you who like, oh, where'd you get your sources? It's Googleable. Please, aren't you done yet? Like, a lot of you, are you like, what's the goal? How far? ¿Dónde está la guerrilla? Like, what the fuck? This is, I'm so tired of the betrayal and the lies all the time, and a lot of you is like, oh, but it's like, no, it's just capitalism, and we have a really nasty, yeah, the claws are showing. Meanwhile, there are talks about AI and all this fucking bullshit. Like, guys, please look it up. In India, to just look at the temperature in India, just that. And a lot of you is like, oh, that's over there, not where you are, right? Really, they really program you and scoop you guys that bad? Damn. Evil will never win. You guys, please. This is heat waves. That's your sign. That's your indication for a lot of you. AI data? What? Why do we never listen to like the scientists and stuff like that, environmentalists? Like, this is why I'm like, fuck. Yeah, don't forget about Sudan. Like, told the unimaginable horror they face as they escape the city. The world must not look away. Yeah. Have you been looking in Sudan? Have you been supporting? I have some in my Telegram. Check out my Telegram. Check out my link tree. Go do what you gotta do. Keep the algorithm going and talking about every different things. You can do it. You could do it. You're not living the situation that these people are having to go through. Yo, I don't care if shit about folk, because I'm done with the Zionist fucking Christians. Like, fuck that. But this is becoming one of my top tiers this year. I gotta give Pope that. Like, you're becoming a revolutionary right on. In the whole last week that I didn't see in the news anywhere. I'm like, wait, why did they talk about this in the news? Did you know this? Did you know that the Pope did some trying to create reparation, apologizing? Yes, it's too late. Yes, for sure. But reparations, right? Returning what's not yours back, and sovereignty, like the real thing. Like, you know, a lot of you, like, democracy has, like, the essence of the word have died because this corrupt system, capitalist system, have completely crumbled it, because that's what the illusion they use. And I, you know, hold on to, or hope that a lot of you hold on to that so that you can give consent, or a lot of things they did without your consent. And they blame you for finding out or knowing or being, like, too feisty or too angry or not angry enough for some. There's a lot of judgments, so this is why, like, in times like this of revolution, you have to continue to sleep being united, which is also what relates to continuously being healing. Wherever you can, I don't know where you're at. I hope you get some comfort and remember Gaia, and she gave us water, and this water used to be much cleaner, and it's not. And a Waki reservation is there. This used to be their land, so we also have to remember that, you know. This is why also the colonizers don't want you to, like, tell people, because yeah, they live off that. And then behind me is like the richest motherfucking people, you know, who took their ancestors took the land of these people who are right in front of me. A lot of population and very grounded energy, and I feel it too. For a lot of us, we recharge with water or nature or stuff like that, so we'll do that because there's a lot going on in the world, and it's intentionally. So this is why it's constant, the activism and decolonization, but also the feeling depressed, emotional exhaustion, the sometimes vertigo, because a lot of you are working a lot of jobs and you're not resting. Confirmation. Everything is keep record, like, yeah, because I feel like a lot of you are not understanding the severity of a lot of things that's going on. And I feel like as an environmental scientist, I can honestly say this all the time, like, we've been warning for a while, but it's like, what? So yeah, and as a mother to kids, I want, you know, a better future than this. Like, they don't have to struggle, go through the stuff that we're going through. Because I know you don't want to say it, but you're going through a lot of shit, right? I don't sugarcoat shit here. My tarot reader, right? Energy reader, so. And it's like I can't turn it off. And that's it. Accepting what it is. But knowing that there's a lot of people that have privileges and stuff like that, and also those have to be acknowledged. You want to destroy the system, you have to start within yourself, holding yourself accountable, doing all the things that they're not doing, right? A lot of you know that there needs to be financial reparations for sure, but it's more than that. It's land bag, it's like redistribution, retribution for the black people, what they've done during slave time, the end of slavery now and forever, right? And oppression and capitalism. And now you see also, I was looking at, like, all the things that they don't want people to talk about in anywhere, you know, Western elite capitalist shit. I was like, oh wow, all the things that they want that you guys should be, that it makes equality and healthier, sustainable future and system, not just for now, but for the next generation. Not having greedy ass people taking, like 1%, like, this is why a lot of you stand on your power. Like, they know that you guys, like, yeah, and they should be, yeah, aware, scared, whatever the fuck. I don't give a fuck. A lot of you know what needs to be done. Like, there's accountability. Some people are just, there's no prison for you. Like, you've done way too motherfucking much. You're fucking evil. And, like, a lot of you, like, oh, forgive. Oh, really? People who can kill 400,000 children, war criminals right now in Canada and everywhere, ESPO, war machines, right? Who the fuck? You are criminals. You're fucked up. You're fucked up. Fuck you. Free Palestine. For real. and free all the oppressed.
And if you're one of those people who still doesn't believe in climate change or global warming when this is what India looks like, then you're either incredibly selfish or just that fucking deluded. Now, mind you, it's not even summer yet. Here in the UK, we've had the hottest May ever, even recorded in UK history. So I can't even begin to fathom the amount of hell or monstrosity that's going on in India right now. Right now in India, it is over 45 degrees Celsius in heat. You don't even want to begin to imagine what that is in Fahrenheit. And mind you, this is coming after the weather office has even warned that many states in India will see above average heat waves throughout the course of this entire year. So not just now. And need I remind you that India is not equipped for this heat whatsoever. Less than 10% of homes within India have AC inbuilt within them. So, in fact, recently, India saw a power demand exceeding over 270 gigawatts. And this directly caused power outages and shortages throughout the country. Like, do you even know what that means? That means the hotter it gets, the more electricity people use. But the more electricity people use, the more difficult it is to keep the lights on for everybody else. It has never been this bad. And again, it's not even summer yet. It is just so bad in India right now, and it's only projected to get even worse. So the fact that there are uneducated twats coming on this app to say that global warming doesn't exist, what is actually the matter with you? Read a book before it's too late.
3 American billionaires are quietly buying up massive volumes of BC farmland. From Kamloops to Dunster to Pemberton, our own farms are being scooped up to be used as tax havens and luxury vacation grounds, all thanks to our relaxed farm ownership laws. Case number 1. Heir to the Walmart fortune, the world's richest family, Stan Kroenke has bought up BC's most historic, largest ranches. The Douglas Lake Ranch, Jang Ranch, Alkali, James Cattle, Risk Creek, and Kelchina Cattle Company. Stan Kroenke now owns and controls 1.2 million acres of BC farmland, worth $37 billion, owner of the LA Rams and Trump donor. Kroenke became America's largest private landowner in 2026. So what is Stan doing with these massive BC ranches? Well, in 2021, he successfully sued BC fishermen and continued blocking access to provincial public lakes. Look, Stan's addiction to investment land hoarding knows no bounds. We need to get those elbows back up to protect our sovereignty and our farmland. Case number 2. Mark Walter and Bobby Patton Jr., the American billionaires who have hollowed out Dunster in the Robson Valley. And this is on land that would have been used to create jobs and feed British Columbians. Instead, they use it as a luxury hunting ground just a few times a year to entertain their elite friends. Locals report that these two bought a lodge with 25 houses on it. The royal hunt lives on, and the toll on Dunster has been devastating. About half of the farming population has been pushed out in the last few years. And now locals say that they can't attract newcomers with this constant threat of billionaire buyouts. Mark Walter is worth about $18 billion, but he made his money as CEO of the Guggenheim Partners, a financial firm that manages $325 billion in assets. Guggenheim recently came under fire for their stake in the corporation that operates ICE detention centers. Now Mark is also leading another equity venture, TWG Global, which recently celebrated a new partnership with Palantir. Yes, that Palantir. Mark joins his buddy, Bobby Patton Jr., worth $2 billion in the farmland buyout. Bobby is a Texas-based investor with holdings in oil, real estate, and sports teams. How is this even allowed? Quebec recently restricted non-resident and investment firms' ownership of farmland. BC should do the same. Back in 2023, EB suggested a tax on underused farmland, but never pursued it. Minister of Agriculture Lana Popham has been elected for 17 years, presiding over this entire takeover, and this is all she has to say about it.
Some folks definitely concerned about foreign ownership of farmland. I did ask BC Assessment to look into foreign ownership and pull the numbers. They've reported back to me that there's 1% of farmland is owned by foreign ownership.
Of BC's 11 million acres of agricultural land, Stan Kroenke alone now controls over 13% of it. After months and months of fear-mongering about Indigenous people stealing land, the real villain is who it's always been: the billionaire class. That's why establishment parties are driving this racist culture war, to keep us fighting each other instead of looking up. Whether it's an apocalypse bunker, colonizing space, or pushing out farmers for luxury vacations, the global billionaire class have chosen to hoard land and wealth at the expense of the rest of us. We need to stand up for local ownership and tell these American billionaires, you will not take BC.
I'm going to read a quote, and I would like you to see if you can guess who said it. I've learned lots of things from President Trump. I don't fully subscribe to this, but I see the effectiveness, the value of flooding the zone, of doing multiple things at the same time. I think that Trump has a very effective way in his own almost unique manner of framing issues and of dominating the agenda. If you guessed Prime Minister Carney, you'd be right. In an interview with Bloomberg's Michal Hussein, Prime Minister Carney said that one of the things he's learned from Trump is how to flood the zone. The term flooding the zone was coined by Steve Bannon, who worked on both of Trump's campaigns. Basically, it describes a political strategy that has been used by Trump many, many times, and essentially it's when you overwhelm the media, political opponents, and just the general public by creating an overload of information and controversy. People become so overwhelmed by the sheer amount of horrific things that the government is doing that we don't even know where to start in terms of fighting back. While the public and the opposition are busy trying to deal with last week's or yesterday's horrific things, they're pushing through new horrific things. And Carney has been actively using the flooding the zone strategy. He's been flooding the zone literally since he took office. But even while he's admitted to using this strategy, not only admitted it, he's actually seemingly proud of having learned this strategy from Trump. Canadians don't seem to realize that this is going on. The government has been actively decimating any kind of climate protections that Canada had. This government has been ruthlessly attacking migrants through Bill C-12 and changes to the PR path. The government has been continuing to fund a G-side through refusing to put through Bill C-233. The government has been attacking public health care. The government has been attacking us LGBTQ plus people. The government has been giving more power to corporations and putting more money in the hands of the rich through things like Bill C-15 and the new budget. Government has been attacking our Charter of Rights and Freedom. I could go on, but I think we get the picture. Carney has been and continues to be using the Trumpian tactic of putting through tons of horrendous things at the exact same time, so that we the people are too overwhelmed with the sheer amount of bills and feel too hopeless in the face of the amount of them that we're less emboldened to take action. Carney is putting through all of these bills in order to give himself more power. As we lose steam, hope, and concentration, Carney gains power. So to all the carnivores out there saying that Carney could never possibly do anything even remotely similar to Trump, he literally admitted that he is.
So what's been happening at the ICE concentration camp Delaney Hall that the mainstream news and U.S. government has been untruthful about? For the past 2 weeks, community members have gathered outside Delaney Hall to support the hundreds of immigrants detained inside who have launched a labor and hunger strike, who are protesting spoiled food, inadequate medical care, and inhumane living conditions. It's the people inside the concentration camps who are organizing and the people who are outside who have shown up to support the strikers. What has been described as violent clashes in the news are agents of the state attacking protesters, using batons, indiscriminately pepper spraying the crowd, throwing protesters into the road, and moving with such brutality that dozens of protesters and journalists in the crowd have been hospitalized. Delaney Hall in New York, New Jersey is a privately run immigration detention center operated by the GEO Group, a private for-profit prison corporation that reopened Delaney Hall in February of 2025 under the Trump administration through a nearly $1 billion ICE contract. Meanwhile, community members have built systems of care, including a tent right outside Delaney Hall to support families and detainees upon release that has been up for over a year. And most recently, a medical tent and additional PPE supplies to protect community members from the agents' violence for standing with the strikers. 24 hours a day, ICE continued to display an aggressive show of force, displaying tactical vehicles and gear and propaganda-style vehicles prominently branded with ICE logos. It is important to see that the people being described as quote-unquote rioters in the news and the government are primarily the youth, who alongside New Jersey community members, often adorned in the 𝓃𓂀Let, have nothing more with them than protective gear, and some with megaphones, who use the megaphone for chants against ICE and to center the demands of those organizing inside, which you can see from this agent seemingly having a temper tantrum as they smash a megaphone seemingly doesn't like. It is also important to know that there has been a constant flow of emergency vehicles in and out of the facility. Families are continuously denied reaching loved ones participating in the strike. And everything you will see in this video is what the state does openly to protect a concentration camp, while the assault and brutality inside the facility is able to operate with no cameras. On May 29th, the New Jersey State Police came and told protesters they needed to move into a quote-unquote designated First Amendment zone.
For your safety, is this one of those fake ones? Relocate to designated First Amendment zone. No!
Constitutional right, not a location!
And then sat down and chanted for hours.
We did not give consent to move us. We have a right to protest, and we're here to support our community members.
Here you can see ICE and the New Jersey Police Department talking and coordinating with each other. I will continue to point out during this video because the government alleges that ICE and the police were not coordinating during this operation. At 9:49, the police told protesters that they were being given a lawful order to leave the area.
You have 5 minutes to leave the area!
And that they had to get rid of the medic tent. Community members rushed to move the medic tent and supplies.
Can you answer me? Why are they taking away the medic tent?
I don't know.
Do you know that people get hurt here?
Not everyone can hear your speaker. You guys need to be clear.
And at 10:03, the police began to throw flashbangs and chemical weapons onto the protesters. The governor of New Jersey alleged the police presence was there to quote-unquote lower the temperature. Meanwhile, the police deployed numerous chemical weapons, including 40mm riot smoke projectiles, 6,230 riot CS smoke, white smoke triple phaser, and 7,290 M flashbangs. And when that wasn't enough, the police released horses onto the crowd, and ICE agents deployed pepper ball projectiles. The riot cops only opened their line to allow a caravan of ICE agents to arrive for a shift change. The next day, additional barricades were built around the concentration camp that was now adorned with Trump flags and protected by riot cops. There was a small rally of alt-right that felt so empowered by ICE and the police that came to support, which did include a few Proud Boys. And again, during this day, you can see ICE and the police coordinating and talking, which days before that exact ICE agent can be seen attacking community members supporting the strike. So that night, again, the protesters attempt to fight back against this quote-unquote protest zone, and the government's response is the same riot cops and chemical weapons, deploying them even more haphazardly than the night before, unleashing horses. Many of the youth, again, with nothing more than protective gear and chants, remain undeterred from the chemical warfare being thrown at them. They're chased down past Essex County Correction Facility that's right next to Delaney Hall. And just like the days before, this state violence causes multiple members of the press and protesters to be hospitalized. And what's the government's response to this? To shut Delaney Hall pedestrian walkway for half a mile, making it so that protesters can't protest outside Delaney Hall, and a curfew starting at 9. So the protesters protest outside that designated zone that they're told they're not allowed to be in.
Free them all! Free the strikers! Free them all! Free the
And the response to these protesters with their hands up outside the zone that the government said they can't be in is hundreds of police across numerous agencies in New Jersey who kettled journalists and protesters.
Platoon! One! 3 steps inward! 3 steps inward!
Who are outside the zone that the government said they can't be in to protest, giving them nowhere to leave. Before arresting the protesters, they told the press that you have to leave or you'll be arrested as well.
Fashion, you are coming with us, do you understand?
Aggressively forcing press down the block, trying to obstruct their view from when
Keep moving! Go!
the police arrested the protesters who were kettled in one by one, going through their stuff and throwing their items haphazardly on the ground, and then keeping these community members in jail for over 20 hours. And now many of these protesters face felony rioting charges. I've said this before, but this is what the state does when being filmed in 4K. There is no filming of what's going on in Delaney Hall. These hunger and labor strikes by immigrants detained have now spread around the country. So as the Trump administration attempts to expand these for-profit labor camps, it's important that we don't allow these concentration camps to become normalized.
That's a rubber bullet. They shot through my pants right here. Yeah, they shot through my pants. They actually hit my and then there's giant bruising.
That shot was intentional. This is a United States veteran who's currently protesting at the Delaney ICE detention facility because of their horrific abusive conditions of the migrants that are being held in that facility. One man who's wheelchair-bound was recently released and told that he was in solitary confinement for 5 months. That is why we have protesters out there. And this is not the first time that they have targeted private areas of protesters. A year ago, this man who was also protesting ICE had one of his shattered due to a close-range shot from a rubber bullet. And if that's not horrifying enough, the crossover between the behavior of ICE agents and Israeli officers is a Venn diagram that's going to look like a giant circle.
One of my urology colleagues there told me that they admitted 4 young teenage boys, 13, 14-year-olds, I think, who'd all been shot in the testicles.
If you're looking for connections between American law enforcement and the Israeli military, this is the article for you. It was birthed from a 2017 FOIA request that showed thousands of American officers, including local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, FBI, CIA, and even ICE officers going to train with Israeli military on their tactics on how they deal with crowd control, deportation, racial profiling, surveillance, and detention. Why are we taking any tips from these genocidal freaks? Birds of a feather, I guess. These delegates also met with the Shin Bet and chief officers in the Israeli military prisons. These prisons that are actually just concentration camps. And they walk the flotilla members like this too. They threw flashbangs at us. The same Israeli prison service that was caught sexually abusing a Palestinian detainee, they're training our officers. Now, you might think this sounds a little crazy, it's a bit traumatic, it won't come here to the United States, but the U.S. Army is now doing urban warfare training exercises in the middle of a densely populated city in Southern California. You need to start protesting your local ICE detention facility and demand transparency from this terrorist organization. Anyway, this video is getting really long, so please go support our comrade here and go help them out at the Delaney detention facility while they bring attention to the hostages that are suffering inside. They need bodies, they need media personnel. Fuck ICE and free Palestine.
So, just in case you missed it, which you probably did because only the Israeli media reported on it, Apple has partnered with Israel to develop the new chips in the iPhone 17s. And this made me immediately remember the 2024 Lebanon pager bombings. You know, the one where thousands of beepers and other devices exploded in people's hands across Lebanon. You know, the one that was linked to Israel called Operation Grim Beeper that killed and injured thousands of civilians. So now Apple is just expecting people to be okay with their iPhones being made in another country that's already weaponized other devices? Yeah, no, I think I'm okay. I think me and my kids won't be needing a new iPhone for a while.
Was the trailer for Greenpeace's newly released short film entitled Slapsuit. The short film is truly a must-watch because it brings attention to one of the most important and terrifying existential threats to the activist movement today. Slapsuit. SLAP stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. Essentially, this is a type of lawsuit that is leveled by large corporations and billionaires against nonprofits, journalists, whistleblowers, and everyday activists as a way of burying them in legal fees and draining their resources with the ultimate goal of silencing them. SLAPs don't necessarily have any actual legal merit. The companies that are taking us to court know that they might not win, but that's actually not the point. These corporate bullies can still achieve their desire of diminishing or even stopping public participation and dissent because they force us to rack up legal fees and create fear and distress. I truly cannot overstate the significance of SLAPs in undermining freedom of expression. Amnesty International has listed SLAPs as a threat to human rights since 2016. Unsurprisingly, some of the most common SLAP cases have been leveled by, you guessed it, oil companies. Over the past 10 years, corporations use SLAPs literally hundreds hundreds of times globally in attempts to silence environmental movements, indigenous-led activism, union organizing, and more. And one key example of a slap is the ongoing fossil fuel pipeline company Energy Transfer's lawsuits against Greenpeace US and Greenpeace International. Energy Transfer is headed up by Kelsey Warren, a major Trump donor. Their latest slap suit is against Greenpeace for supporting the indigenous-led Standing Rock resistance. The reality is that corporate polluters and greedy oligarchs, they know that protest works. That's why they're trying to make the stakes so high that no one will be willing to take the risk to dissent. So what can we do about this? Well, one way of resisting is through enacting anti-slap suit legislation. And in Canada, 4 provinces already have such legislation. We can push for the remaining provinces to enact anti-slap suit policy as well. But even better would be to push for this at a federal level. Also, even in provinces that do have such legislation, it's relatively new, so we need to remain hyper vigilant that this is being properly applied. You can do this, for example, through Greenpeace Canada-led action and supporting the work of organizations like the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. But a good place to start that you can do literally right now is watch and share the new slap suit short film. The more of us understand slap suits, the more able we are to pinpoint and take action against legal human rights violations. The people united will truly never be defeated. We'll continue to resist slaps and any other threats to people power.
Everyone hates Israel. Data just released from Pew Research found that 32 out of 36 countries they surveyed had more negative views of Israel than positive ones. What's wild is how widespread these negative views are. It's not just Muslim-majority countries that stand in solidarity with Palestinians that dislike Israel, but everywhere from Japan to South Africa to Brazil. But what's even more shocking is that we find negative views of Israel even in the so-called Western world. As a Westerner myself, I can tell you we were exposed to a huge amount of Zionist propaganda since we were kids. I remember being told in one of my first history classes that Israel was given to Jewish people because of the Holocaust as their ancestral homeland where they would be safe. Of course, we all know now that that's propaganda because Zionism began before the Holocaust, and we were never told about the genocide of Palestinians that occurred in order to create the state of Israel. But I want to still emphasize that this propaganda was very pervasive. It was the air we breathed. It was in schools, books, movies, museums, political speeches, absolutely everywhere. But despite the billions of dollars spent, this propaganda is no longer working. In fact, some of the countries with the most negative views of Israel were Western countries like Italy and Sweden. Even in the United States, Pew Research found 60% of Americans have unfavorable views of Israel, while only 37% have positive views. And this is a growing trend in the United States and in every country they examined. As America and Israel's war of aggression against Iran continues, which will drive up the price of oil and lead to a global recession, I expect that this trend will continue. Now, unfortunately, there were actually 4 countries that had more positive views of Israel than negative. This was India, Ghana, Kenya, and Nigeria. And this is very disappointing to me because all 4 of these countries are themselves subject to colonialism and neocolonialism. I think what's going on here is when you look at these countries, all 4 of them have large Muslim minority populations, so support for Israel is motivated by Islamophobia. But even in these cases, there is a tiny bit of positive news. Because when you look at the numbers in all 4 of these countries, the positive views of Israel were only a couple of percentage points above those who had negative views. And in all 4 of these countries, there is worsening views of Israel. For instance, in 2025, 59% of Nigerians have positive views of Israel, and only 32% negative. Now it is only 47% positive and 41% negative. Soon enough, there will be no countries that see Israel positively. Now, in my opinion, this is the beginning of the end of Israel. But what do you think? Please leave a comment, like, and share.
Case should terrify each and every one of us. This is more outrageous than the prescription of Palestine action, which in itself is like entirely fucking egregious. This is terrifying and horrifying, and the implications this has for every single person, monumental. I'm going to do a little thought exercise while I'm blinded by the sun. Now imagine you are on trial for criminal damage. You're on trial, there's a jury of your peers overseeing the trial, and you are on trial for criminal damage. During this trial, the judge has barred you from levelling any defence of your actions, so you are not allowed to frame your actions in any way that is justifiable. You are not allowed to say the words genocide or ethnic cleansing. Your barristers also aren't allowed to level the defence on your behalf, and as such, by the end of the trial, you have fired them so that you can go for your own closing speech. The jury ends up finding you guilty of criminal damage, and you've already served 18 months on remand, far in excess of the 6-month legal limit for keeping people on remand. So, time served, you'll probably walk free, except no, because the judge in this case is absolutely diabolical cunt, Judge Jeremy Johnson. Unbeknownst to the jury, because he withheld this information from the jury, this very crucial information. Although you've been found guilty of criminal damage, he's probably going to sentence you for terrorism, which is vastly different. You've got criminal damage and you've got terrorism. Completely different things. That is the reality for Fatima, Lottie, Sam and Ellie, 4 of the Filton 25, who on June the 12th at Woolwich Crown Court are possibly going to be sentenced as terrorists, despite being found guilty of a different crime entirely, which is criminal damage. What is being tried and tested here lays the groundwork for any one of us to be tried and convicted of one crime and sentenced for a different crime entirely. That is what the British state is doing. Complete and utter political manipulation of the justice system, of the court system. And that isn't, I mean, that's all fucking wild, but that isn't even necessarily as wild as it gets. Because you might be thinking, well, terrorism, how exactly? The judge can't prove that these 4 actionists sought to influence the British government. He can't say that, he can't prove that. What he can and is saying and is using as justification for this terrorism connection is that they influenced the Israeli government because they restricted Israel's access to weaponry used to commit genocide. That's mental. That is fucking crazy. The British government is doing what it has been doing this whole time, which is putting Israel's ability to commit genocide ahead of the freedoms, liberties and rights of its own citizens. It will seek to imprison these 4 people, these 4 heroes, for terrorism charges, despite the fact, again, the jury did not find them guilty of terrorism. They found them guilty of criminal damage. The jury were not made aware that this terrorism connection would be made retroactively and they would be sentenced as such. The jury were not made aware of that. The chances are, were they made aware of it, they probably wouldn't convicted them, because they're probably people who harbour hearts, souls, consciences and don't have any vested interest in the profit-mongering of the military-industrial complex. So they probably would have found them not guilty, which is exactly why the judge withheld that information. And all of this is to protect Britain's business interests with Israel. All of this is so that Israel can continue to commit genocide. That is how bloodthirsty this government is. That is how morally bankrupt this government is, and the one before it. This is the depth of depravity in our Labour government. This is who they are, this is what they are. They do not give a single fuck about you and I. They do not give a single fuck about Palestinians. They care about Zionism, pleasing the Zionist lobby, making money. I implore you to read more about this, and I implore you to be at Woolwich Crown Court on June 12th. That is where the sentencing will be happening. That is where there will be a huge mobilisation for the Filton 25 and specifically these 4 heroes. This is no fucking joke. This is a huge fucking deal. I don't know how to tell you how to care about it. Be at Woolwich Crown Court, June 12th. I'll see you there.
Okay, Canadian family, Prime Minister Mark Carney just dropped the new federal AI strategy for all. And let me tell ya, it's peak tech bro greenwashing. Carney's bragging that Canada's chilly climate and clean grid make us the perfect tech home. But under the hood, it's a resource guzzling nightmare. As the National Observer exposed, these massive hyperscale data centers are water and energy monsters, gulping down ecosystems just to keep AI chipsets cool. The feds claim these data centers will run on clean energy. Absolute delusion. They're telling us the grid is 83% clean. Yeah, it's in Quebec, bro. Look at the map. Paris Marks from Tech Won't Save Us points out that greater than 90% of Canada's planned AI data centers are slated for good old Alberta, but Alberta's grid runs on fossil gas. And Danielle Smith's government literally put a moratorium on renewables because she thinks wind turbines ruin the aesthetic of oil wells. Are we for real right now, Chad? We're unironically burning fossil fuels to power AI chatbots, while regional heat waves only get worse. And it gets dirtier. These server farms require millions of liters of water daily. Yet, West Coast environmental law lawyer Anna Johnston notes that the feds are explicitly exempting them from environmental reviews and the Canadian Navigable Waters Act. Not suspicious at all. Not suspicious AF at all. And this isn't isolated either. Just look at Ontario. They rammed through Bill 98, the Water and Wastewater Public Corporations Act. Writing in The Conversation, Dr. Meera Karunanthan warns that this strips municipal control, shifting public water into arm's-length corporations. It's what UBC law professor Joel Bakken calls stealth privatization. Think of it like your landlord ripping the pipes out, handing them to Nestle, making you pay for the repairs, and then charging you $5 a minute to use your own damn toilet. That's Bill 98. They're priming our most vital human right, water, for corporate exploitation to feed tech's unquenchable robo-esophaguses. This corporate capture triggered a mutiny though. Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault resigned in protest, stating Carney's rollbacks go further than Stephen Harper. Carney tried to quietly fast-track legislation, letting cabinet drive entire species to extinction. But thousands of Canadians actually flooded them with furious feedback. And guess what? Breaking updates across r/Canada show the government was just forced to completely pump the brakes and pause their little deregulation play. Don't get it twisted though. This is just a tactical retreat, because they got caught trying to auction our water table to big tech. Environmental Defence Canada rightly warned this was the worst destruction of environmental law in Canadian history. It proves organized public pressure just works, be like water, but the capitalist threat still remains. They call it AI for all, but it's just the same old colonial resource extraction threat, wrapped in a gross little high-tech bow. Stay loud, stay woke, keep organizing, and don't let them steal our water. Ciao.
Abolishing ICE is deeply intertwined with abolishing the illegitimate state of Israel. The two are deeply connected as tools of U.S. imperialism. ICE was created by the Bush administration in 2003 as the U.S. empire's domestic arm of its global war on terror agenda. Yes, the same global war on terror that resulted in the murder of millions of people across the global south, including Iraq, Afghanistan, and in Syria. Since then, ICE has only expanded in power through both Republican and Democratic administrations.
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, but the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
Today, it has an $85 billion budget, making it one of the highest funded domestic imperialist agencies. And this expansion relies heavily on corporations like Palantir. Palantir, a kill technology and AI data mining corporation, has been contracted by the U.S. empire since 2014. ICE uses Palantir to collect massive amounts of personal data to track, monitor, and flag people, directly fast-tracking mass incarceration and deportation. It's also worth noting that Palantir isn't only used by ICE. It is embedded across schools, hospitals, and our food system through the USDA. Israeli surveillance company Paragon also holds a $2 million contract to provide spyware services to ICE. Together, these relationships show how both corporate and state powers work hand in hand to expand imperial kleptocracy. Palantir helps commit war crimes and genocide in Palestine. In fact, they created an AI surveillance system for Israel that helps determine who or what to attack and when, with those systems operating through U.S.-provided data. At the same time, the IOF and U.S. law enforcement, the military, the police regularly exchange militarization tactics. The Anti-Defamation League sponsors police departments and ICE to train with the IOF in Israel, learning methods of mass repression and surveillance, such as militarized checkpoints, constant day-to-day monitoring, incarceration, and detention practices that are then deployed against communities here. And as a reminder, the violence that we are seeing today didn't start with ICE or even 50 years ago. This is very on brand for America. It is rooted in the very foundations of this imperial core. Colonialism, genocide, slavery, which laid the bedrock for capitalism. That's why abolishing ICE and freeing everyone who is detained is inseparable from ending the genocide and settler colonialism that we are funding in Palestine. And both struggles are also connected to broader demands for prison abolition, land back, reparations, food sovereignty, and so on for collective liberation.
Why am I so apocalyptic? Because we have all watched this live stream genocide, and it's just day by day, week by week, month by month, a complete repudiation of international law, of the Genocide Convention, of the UN Charter, of everything. Not only has it been a repudiation, but Western governments, especially our government, have sustained it. Israel ran out of munition stockpiles weeks into the genocide. And I think that it is tied to the breakdown of the climate. As the climate breaks down, and as you get people fleeing areas that have been devastated by the ecocide, you are watching the tools that have been used to subjugate and control the Palestinians being used on migrants, whether that's in Lesbos, whether that's on the Mexican border, Israeli drones, surveillance, ground sensors. And I think that in many ways the genocide in Gaza is a message. And the message is, we will build our climate fortresses and we will stop at nothing. I was kind of amazed that the BBC reporter said on air that what they were doing in southern Lebanon, and they were obliterating southern Lebanon, was the Gaza model. And Pankaj Mishra, who's a really, really great intellectual, he argues correctly that this is a seminal moment. There's no going back. There's no way after this genocide, and of course much of it was a fiction, but at least it was a utopian ideal, the idea of a rules-based order. And you've seen what they've done to my friend Francesca Albanese, along with two ICC judges, the two judges who issued arrest warrants for the former defense minister Yoav Gallant and for Benjamin Netanyahu. They've been locked out of the world financial system, which, because the US controls it, they can do. She can't use a credit card, she is not reimbursed for her medical bills, she can't book a hotel room in her name. That's the world where we're headed. I mean, you saw, and I was here for the encampment in Princeton, what happened to the students here. Columbia removed Catherine Franke. This woman, if you know anything about law, she's one of the great constitutional lawyers in the United States, taught at Columbia Law School for 25 years. She lost her job because she dared speak up for the students who had formed the encampment at Columbia.
So this merger between the US and Israeli militaries is worse than a lot of people realize. And I'm going to explain this as factually as possible. And trust me, you are going to want to hear this because the Trump family is securing their power and their wealth for generations as they prepare for a new forever war in the Middle East. So there's a House bill on the table that just passed its first phase of being signed into law. It's called the 2027 National Defense Authorization Act. It's a bunch of big words for the annual military rules and budget. And in this yearly rules and budget list is a hidden provision that was sneaked in there that marries US and Israeli defense industries that will not have congressional oversight. So this bill makes it so the US and Israel not only research, but develop and manufacture weapons, AI, drones, cyber weapons, all kinds of shit, and they do it together forever. Although this is an annual bill, once our research and development is intertwined with Israel, it is going to be impossible to separate. Because once the US and Israel build defensive infrastructure, you cannot separate them. You cannot split factories and labs down the middle. And once they are operating, they are going to be integrated into the American economy, and Israel will have the power, the money, the infrastructure, and the support to wage a war against the entire Middle East. Now, the Trump family has a huge financial incentive to cultivate a forever conflict in the Middle East. The Trump family are deeply invested in drone and defense companies. Not only are they making deals right now to sell those drones and that defense technology to all of the Gulf states in the region, but they are heavily invested in the Israeli AI drone manufacturer Extend. So basically, they are creating a forever profitable loop. Marry the United States with the central country that is involved in these forever wars in the Middle East, and make it so that Daddy Trump can write a blank check with American taxpayer money to the defense companies that his children are invested in. All in the name of defending Western values. This is war profiteering scaled up like a businessman. Think about that.
Now we know why they wouldn't let this evil bitch talk.
With my husband in
She said she found Albania with the Rothschilds. Outside of the sexual abuse as a kid, she said she found it with the Rothschilds, and that's the same family that funded Hitler, Epstein, and Trump. And those are the same three people. They funded them so that they would privatize the rest of the world for the Israelis. Now they're pepper spraying cops, stealing beaches. It's just theirs now, right? In Albania, They're bombing the prime minister's house because they're not like the Americans. Americans are bitches. Our Second Amendment is for show. They know that if they don't use theirs, they're just going to sell the land and then they're going to kill everybody.
House is waterfront property. It could be very valuable.
They said no to this weasel Zionist Nazi-looking Epstein 2.0 wannabe. He's building the next pedophilic sex trafficking ring for the rest of Epstein's client list. We know that they fund both sides of the war. We know that Mossad has an agent in every state. We know that Epstein ran New York. We know that Jared runs DC. We read the files. Did anyone read the files? What the fuck? And so Greece is gone, okay? I'm Greek. It's gone, right? And so they already bought it. So Albania, you're going to be next. They're going to kill us.
People in there. I know that won't be the popular thing to do.
The
but
world's
I think
eyes
that's
are
a
on
better
you.
option to do, so you
We're
can go
all
in
rooting.
and transform it, but with a lot of
Shut up. Rich people do unspeakable things to the world around them when they're on vacation or when they're not. They ask, what can't I do? Because no one's stopping them. That's how they play God. They're going to torture kids. They're going to torture islands until we violently stop them, right? Why would they stop? That's how they make money. They're going to kill 200 species of birds, like in a month, a bunch of different types of sea turtles and fish. No one cares but Albania. So all eyes on them. If we can't fight for our own countries, let's just root for them, right? Rich people and colonizers, they don't need us. They don't need animals. They don't need the world. It's just all bunkers for kids' sex.
We were on a friend's boat, and we stopped.
And now
to
you
swim.
know.
Effectively, that's how we found.
So a lot of people are saying that the United States and Israel are merging militaries. What people are talking about is Section 224. The provision appears in the House version of the 2027 National Defense Authorization Act. It's not law yet. It still has to survive committee markup, pass the House, like reconciliation with the Senate, receive the president's signature. But I think we should talk about what it is and what it's supposed to do. So Section 224 actually is merging the United States and Israel at the level of defense technology, like military development and like the defense industry itself. It's calling for joint research, joint weapons development, joint production, shared military networks, shared data, interoperable systems, combined program offices, long-term institutional cooperation amongst the United States and Israel militarily. So for obvious reasons, people are upset because it goes beyond simple partnerships. AIPAC and other supporters are saying that this is simply just the next step in an already close relationship between the United States and Israel. But from a non-biased standpoint, no matter what your opinion is on this, it is the institutional integration of America's defense industrial base with a foreign government. Now let's talk about the dirty stuff. This is the stuff you want to hear. This is what you waited for. Who's involved with this? So it took me like 5 minutes of research to find out that the lawmakers most associated with advancing this proposal have collectively received hundreds of thousands of dollars from pro-Israel lobbying interests and donors. So I actually did you a favor and I made you a list, because why not? So Mike Lawler, who's one of the strongest advocates for this provision, has reportedly received more than $684,000, actually $318,000 directly from AIPAC. And then we've got Mike Rogers, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, has reportedly received more than $549,000. We've got Brad Sherman, who's expected to support the proposal. He's received nearly $693,000. And then I, of course, saved my personal favorite for last, Marlin Stutzman, who is the congressman who was actually personally thanked by Benjamin Netanyahu. Actually, June 1st, Benjamin Netanyahu sent a letter to Congressman Marlin Stutzman thanking him for endorsing this plan. And it's important to give you a direct quote. I was glad to receive your proposed congressional resolution endorsing my plan to shift the framework for the U.S.-Israel defense cooperation from aid to partnership. So Title 18 of the U.S. Code, subsection 219, specifically prohibits federal public officials from acting as agents of foreign principals. They are required to register under the FARA. The principle behind the law is simple. American officials are supposed to represent American interests, not the interests of foreign governments. So I actually saw a supporter of 224 say that it's similar to alliances like NORAD and other like international partnerships that the United States already has. So the issue I have with that is Canada is our neighbor. Israel is our parasite. It's quite different. Israel has no mutual defense treaty with the United States. Israel's not a NATO member. Israel's not a part of the national technology and industrial base. But Section 224 would grant Israel a level of defense industrial integration that exceeds what America offers some of our closest treaty allies. This isn't being proposed with Canada. This isn't being proposed with Britain. It's not being proposed with Germany, Japan, South Korea. It's being proposed with Israel, a government currently engaged in genocide in the Middle East. Human rights organizations, international legal experts, numerous governments have said that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza while simultaneously escalating war and regional tensions quite literally everywhere. And I will say, the concern shouldn't be that American and Israeli troops suddenly become one army overnight. The concern should be permanence, okay? Aid packages can be voted on. Funding can expire. Congress can revisit them, but once you build shared networks and shared databases and you combine offices and you're integrating supply chains and jointly developed weapons programs, and those relationships become embedded inside government institutions. They become difficult to unwind. It's quite permanent, okay? And that is exactly what this bill is designed to accomplish. A permanent relationship between the United States and Israel militarily. And the biggest concern I feel like I don't see being addressed, and this is where I'm going to close the video out, transparency. You should be terrified, because today Americans understand military aid because it requires public appropriations, like public votes. Section 224, like this merging, would move much of the relationship into like private channels, like private acquisition channels, technology partnerships, bureaucratic structures that the public doesn't have access to. It would be far less public attention and oversight. The argument against it should be simple. Like, why is the United States moving towards unprecedented integration with a foreign state that sits outside of our normal alliance structures? Why is this happening with so little public debate? Why are we institutionalizing a relationship that future Congresses may struggle to reverse? Why does it appear that the Israeli government itself is actively encouraging this transition? Benjamin Netanyahu called this his plan. It's quite literally illegal for the United States officials to act on behalf of a foreign government, and that is quite literally what we're doing. This is not okay. This is not legal.
All right, so to clarify some stuff, because I'm editing this and I'm like, wait, this just passed, or hopefully didn't, but go check out Alice's page, her YouTube or TikTok, buy her some coffee, okay? She's been working on this, and everything, all her research are in her, not only in Discord that she has. Yeah, Spirit keeps saying that they already, and the whole deal that, oh, Israel spies on the Pentagon or whatever, that has always happened. Now you just merge together, or you're trying to merge together, or Israel is designing to merge together, because right now USA, it's literally like, anyways, make sure that you use your discernment, and make sure that you are looking through the BS, the truth through all the BS, okay? And make sure that you are staying grounded, okay? Yes, Iran has the right to defend itself, defend Lebanon, defend Syria, defend Palestine, Gaza. We all should be in the Iran energy right now. In Albania. Take notes from Albania. They are literally creating a navy to make sure that they're catching all the pedophiles. Zionist pedophiles, billionaires. Yeah. And I think all the other countries should be doing this. Anyways, the next video is someone that Spirit asked me. I just started following her, but Spirit asked me to really listen to what she has to say, because Spirit is speaking through her. And there are specific words and specific things for my comrades that she is going to say, and then you need to be aware. I'm sure you're already aware. So what you're going to hear, you're going to be like, okay, I understand. But for other people, it's not the same. Like, it literally happened this Sunday. 60,000 people in Toronto decided to support genocidal Zionist pedophiles in front of everybody. So don't think that, and yes, some people, it's a choice not to be educated, not to, but also exposing themselves, showing all of y'all that these people either get paid to go on these protests. They already, they're happy about what's going on. they're profiteers, right? They're bootlickers, demonic energy. I don't know. For this point, I don't see people who support Israel at this point, humans anymore. Like, it's for real for forever. Decolonization is and it's their actions that have every time again. Like, if you look at my Telegram, please make sure that you're following IG broadcasts. I'm constantly updating everything, and it's every day, and they attack everywhere in different places all at once, and all you see is massacre of children nonstop, women, people with disabilities, and it's not just in Gaza. Before, for 3 years, it was Gaza only, or now it's Lebanon constantly. They're trying to do what they did to Gaza and Lebanon as well. And I'll also show you how the resistance is taking care of those things, because you should know, because a revolution is not going to be televised, but you should know also the other side of how real humans are taking care of humanity and our planet as well, because that also, we're dealing with parasitic energy. And a lot of you still not get it, that the actual situation problem is that it's working class that needs to step up and do what they got to do. Yeah. And no, not 60,000 pendejos cobardes, mamagüevazo, fucking full of culo con caca, because that's what you are. All these people in Toronto are fucking racist. That too. You expose yourself, bitch. Parasite. And a lot of you don't have to say, oh, I have plenty to say. Go look at my Telegram and get into this energy. Call them out. Embarrass them. A lot of you, they get a high of humiliating you and all of that. Well, that's the video that this lady is talking about, that you need to understand that these people get a high of humiliating and dehumanizing people who have color and people that they think that are beneath them. Yeah. We have to deal with this psychological issue, mental illness of white supremacy and racism, which is fucking demonic at this point. And I have plenty of proven sources for my people who need sources, right? Anyways, listen to this video. Make sure you follow, subscribe, do all the things that we got to do, okay? I got to go back to work. But yeah, so continue and make sure that you support all the content creators here, okay? I love you. See you next time.
You know how when you think about trafficking, you usually think of a lust element. But I'm starting to realize that gore is the actual product, and I'm realizing the surveillance state is designed to produce product for people who like this type of stuff. I'm gonna go a lot of places, but I'm gonna try to tie it up. But we have cars that if you have a driver's side door open, the car will not move, right? And any car manufacturer would know not to create something like this, because the most obvious consideration is spousal abuse or someone trying to carjack you. You can't get out of the situation because the door is open or someone's hanging off of your door, right? And I guess there's this new plan for all cars by 2027 to have this kind of facial recognition in the car to know if you're sleeping. Now, I don't think the United States has a massive problem like that of drivers who are falling asleep at the wheel. It's also very metaphorical to say hey, you guys are falling asleep at the wheel, right? So we're going to watch you in the car and we're going to keep our track of your eyes and all of this and that. Now, people are not going to want to drive cars like that. That's a flat fact. And that's very obvious. So why would you even introduce this idea? I believe that this entire world that we're living in, I'm starting to realize, is a lust and gore sort of harvesting machine. Because what I feel this is odd, but I feel it's oddly sexual and creepy to watch someone in their car, because are you trying to see recordings of car accidents? Because that's what it gives me. Let's also talk about Renee Good and the police officer who took her life. He was recording that. They went to his house after and they found all these servers that they took out, and then it was never mentioned again. He is clearly distributing that content somewhere. Then we have the singer D4DV with that David character. That's a whole other thing, but it's giving, hey, let's create this boy who makes this really sad music. He then collects all of these lost souls. They go to the concert. We can surveil the concert. We have their cell phones. We know where they are. And wealthy people can tune into these programs and watch and choose which people they might like to traffic. And I know this sounds absolutely insane, but it just seems to be coming to that head to me now. It's an epiphany that's suddenly hitting me. Because again, you think about it in a lust product and you worry more about certain things, but it's really about the damage and destruction of watching someone and then saying oh, I would like to abuse them, right? It's a catalog, just like they had those pictures. Remember we used to take pictures in school, and even if your parents didn't buy the photos, your photo was still taken, which would have been a huge waste of film. And then we find out that rich people have access to it somewhere in a catalog of just children that are available, or that they imagine are available to them, right? I also thought about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I'm like, someone is getting off to this video of this room full of journalists that they probably don't like hiding under tables and seeing like, oh, that one's a coward. And like, I didn't realize the depth of like the attachment these people have in their brainwaves, because I obviously don't have this attachment. But anything that's causing anyone pain, all of these videos of us here like crying and about Palestine and things like that, I feel like these are all like lust bait. And of course it is lust based, but not in the way that we're thinking. And yeah, there could be a cross section where it's actual, you know? But it seems like it's really about the ability to just like tap in and watch anyone where they are and just violate people's privacy, which is like the biggest violation you can do. Now it's like, now you're reading my brainwaves, you know, like this seems like what is exactly going on and why it seems so painful and so strange. Like there's surveillance in your TV, they want to keep an eye on you in your car, they want to hear conversations you're having in your car. You know, it's like, to me, this has to undoubtedly have some sort of like lust element to it, because it's one of the like highest, you know, driving factors in human behavior, because a lot of these things, they don't even make any sense. I know that's weird. I don't know if I explained that as well as I could, but I just felt like very compelled to say that. Like also a car that you can just turn off remotely. Like I really will hope that society will say no to something like this immediately because of the implications of what can be done with it. To activists, scientists, anyone who's a threat to anything. Oh, and back to the D4 of DVE thing. Also, that name, it means something. If you get it, you get it. It's right there. I can't say what I think it stands for, but it's Craigslist coded and very obviously snuff coded. Anyways, it's a great way to have a catalog, right? Like you create an artist, you set the whole thing up, and then you just wait for like, again, the people who are like sort of, you've already like damaged and abused in the mind. And then we have Fortnite. That's another video altogether.